Well, we are back in the studio with another episode of Expert Insights, joined by CEO Joe Welu and myself. I'm the Chief Customer Officer of Total Expert, Sue Woodard.
Yeah, one of our favorite topics today, which is customer experience, and what we're going to talk about being perception versus reality.
Perception versus
reality.
When
it comes to customer experience. And I think maybe first we start out and define customer experience from our perspective, because it's a term people use all the time, organizations, and it means different things to different people. And how we look at it and what we believe is the best approach to customer experience is looking at every interaction, every touch point, every interaction, every piece of engagement that a consumer has, the entire life cycle, from the first time they see your brand to the first time they see something on social, to the first time they reach out to you, how your people respond to them, the experience they have through the transaction or becoming a customer, and then most importantly, how are you setting up the loyalty and retention of that customer. So experience is very holistic, first of all. And so the perception versus reality part, I'll maybe let you give some of your thoughts on perception, because I know you talk to a lot of our organizations that we work with.
I do. And we not only talk to a lot of our organizations, our customers, but we also, as you know, conducted the experience experiment, where it was exactly a case study on that, really looking at the perception that a financial institution probably has of what their person coming in there is experiencing, whether they're walking in the door, reaching them online, reaching out to them via email, talking to their people. There's a certain perception they assuredly have versus what the reality is of that experience.
To the customer, right?
Absolutely.
They think we've got an online portal, we've got an online application, people can get information, they can maybe even open an account online, but if you actually go through it, and so you headed up our team. We decided to tell the audience about the
just a little bit about it. We had secret shoppers. We had 4 secret shoppers who went out to 3 different institutions. Won't name any names, of course, but went out and did some different activities. Opened an account, inquired about mortgage financing, inquired about car loans, different things like that, and really just tracked their experiences. And it's funny you bring up the online experience, because in some cases there was an institution that really bragged about how great their online experience was, but literally 2 out of the 4 shoppers were told by staff at that institution, "Oh, you don't want to do the online thing; it's really a nightmare. You're going to need to do."
Classic case of you got one part of the company telling the customer one thing and something else happening.
That's right. And so just a big break between, again, what I know that all of these financial institutions probably have a perception that they're really reaching their customer in all these great ways and making a very seamless process.
In fairness, some of them know it's screwed up. And some of them
Probably
know.
so.
But in a lot of cases,
yes.
I think you're right. I think the perception is we've really made huge strides in our customer experience when the reality is how the consumer is feeling going through that process is not great. And they maybe feel like it's disconnected. They certainly don't feel like you really connected and understood them and it was meaningful. So the outcome that the customer had is very different from what the intent of the organization was, right?
That's right. And 50% of people, if they have a bad experience walking in the door, they absolutely are going to scrap it and they're going to go elsewhere for that, right? So it can be very, very costly if you don't really understand the reality of your experience. And I wonder how many people, listening to this, how would you feel if you knew that you were one of the secret shopping, companies that we went to? Does that strike terror into your heart? Or do you feel like, hey, we'd probably be okay? And do you know?
Yeah. I think the good news for organizations is there's a tremendous opportunity for improvement across the board. And some organizations that we see have made huge strides, but it's to get there and to really have an optimized, amazing experience from start to finish and it's really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, talk through some of the challenges that we see companies take on as they really try to attack customer experience and improve it.
Well, I think it spans so many different things, right? Because to your earlier point, your website is part of your customer experience. Anybody that you have who might be answering the phone or replying to an email, that's part of the customer experience. The kind of communications that you're sending out, and are they actually on point with what this person actually needs? That's a part of the customer experience. So you do really have to take this holistic view and again, map out that customer experience.
And it really never ends, right?
Absolutely.
In terms of having to optimize it, it never ends because things change, things evolve, messaging,
right.
the world is changing, the events that are happening. For example, if your organization didn't shift your messaging strategy to your consumer base over this past couple of months and even the past couple of weeks, really, you maybe thought you had it nailed, and then another unfortunate series of events happens. And so if you weren't able to be nimble and adjust, your experience just deteriorated. You could have thought, hey, we are dialed in. We've got everything mapped the way that we want it. But you left out the fact that, we have to be able to be nimble and turn on a dime, shift campaigns, be able to get out new content, new messaging to people, which if you weren't able to do that, that experience then was hugely impacted.
Come off as completely tone deaf, right? So it's not just a one and done exercise is the point, right? It's doing an audit, mapping out that journey, watching where the gaps are, filling those gaps in, and then continuing to go back to it again and again and again to really test out that experience and make sure the reality lives up to what your dream is.
And having the discipline to say as an organization, this is something that we continually have to reflect on and examine and actually go through the process of going deep into what is actually happening to the customer. Only then can you have the perspective to make the improvements needed.
Yes. And as we know, it's a cross-functional exercise, right? I mean, sometimes this can be done in one area, and one of the other topics we're going to get to in one of our coming up chapters is really talking about alignment between different parts of your company, but it's not a one department exercise.
Yeah, that's another huge misconception, and I think perception versus reality in a slightly different way is you think, okay, we've got a customer experience officer, a head of digital experience, head of experience, that in itself is going to drive the change that you need, and therefore drive the outcome with a customer, when the reality is it requires a coordinated, collaborative effort between all the business lines, the different stakeholders, IT, of course, the people that are in the digital channels and customer experience channels, the people that are having the operational systems, the digital application system, all of those pieces. And then the people that are engaging with the consumer, not just sales or loan officers or private bankers and those types of people, but also any service people as well. How they're communicating. So it's really big in terms of the complexity.
It is. And one bad experience can send somebody elsewhere. So don't get too married to the perception and truly open your eyes and understand your reality.
That's a great point.